Yo, good morning, afternoon, or evening. This is Issues, Coach Ish, whatever you want to call me. Back with another video. Let's talk some boxing for a minute. Okay, so I've been getting hit up a lot about the subject of. I posted a video about Frank Martin ducking Shakur Stevenson. And people are wondering now, it's like, okay, can we apply that same rule to Shakur Stevenson and say Shakur Stevenson is ducking Devin Haney? The answer to that question is hell no. Not no. Hell no. Okay, let's talk about, you know, I've seen people say Shakur Stevenson is a hypocrite because he was asking for a bigger slice in the Devin Haney fight. And, so they're trying to say, okay, if you say, because Frank Martin is asking for more than $1 million, even though he's never made $1 million in his life, even though his highest purse he's ever gotten was 250,000, and even though he's 29, he has 18 fights, right? So because of his age, he's a little up there in age, to be called a prospect, but he's still fighting at a prospect level. He's still fighting at a prospect level. He's still fighting the level of competition that you would give to a prospect to have them slowly build him up to fight on a championship level. He's not a champion. To my knowledge, he hasn't beat an ex-champion. He hasn't beat anyone on a championship level. And he's never accomplished anything. So he's never beat anybody. He's never accomplished anything. So him and Shakur Stevenson are not on the same level at all. Even though Shakur Stevenson don't don't have that many more fights than Frank Martin, but Shakur Stevenson has been fighting at he's been fighting at a high level longer than Frank Martin. Shakur Stevenson is an accomplished fighter. He's an Olympian. Um, he is a 2 division champion, and he's beat champions and former champions. So that's Shakur Stevenson. Now, that doesn't put him and Frank Martin on the same level at all. So for Frank Martin to want a 50-50 split with Shakur Stevenson is outrageous. For Shakur Stevenson to want a 50-50 split or more than a 25% split against Devin Haney is not. Okay. The only thing Devin Haney got going for him is that he's the youngest unified. He's the youngest undisputed champion in the history of the sport. That's the only thing he got going for him. He only beat one person to be unified. He beat the unified champ, which was George Kambosos. So it's not like Devin Haney went and collected all the belts. You know what I'm saying? He beat the person who beat the person. He beat the person who beat the person who pretty much kind of collected all the belts. But Devin Haney didn't go out and collect all the belts. So Devin Haney is the undisputed champion, no doubt. But outside of him beating someone who had all the belts, Devin Haney hasn't really accomplished more than Shakur Stevenson has. Nor has Devin Haney beat, outside of George Kambosos, who, well, I would argue that I'm not big on George Kambosos. Let's just put it like that. You know what I'm saying? He beat Lopez for the belts. Lopez beat Lomachenko. But George Kambosos is another one. He didn't go and collect all the belts and beat all the champs. And you know what I'm saying? He just, through a fortuitous turn of events, You know, he ended up fighting Lopez, who had all the belts, and he beat him. And then Devin Haney beat Kambosos twice. But Kambosos, skill wise and accomplishments, like who he beat and all that, he ain't really beat nobody either. So, so you know, out of outside, take away being undisputed. Take away that. And the only reason I say take away that because for Devin Haney and George Kambosos, they did not go and collect all the belts. They beat the person who had all the belts. So that's the only reason I can say taking that away. Taking that away, you put Kambosos, Devin Haney, and Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is the more accomplished out of those three. For two simple reasons. Number one, as an amateur, he was an Olympian. Neither one of those were Olympian. Neither one of them were Olympians. And as it stands presently, he is a two-division champion. He was champion in two divisions. Okay? So, you know, and what did Bill Haney say in the video? Bill Haney said, Shakur Stevenson is the big homie. Shakur Stevenson is the big homie. So Shakur Stevenson was the guy that Devin Haney looked up to. Shakur Stevenson is Devin Haney's big homie. Shakur Stevenson is not fighting to prove himself against Devin Haney. Most people believe, not an overwhelming majority, but if you know, take everybody who are familiar with these two fighters, I would say 60% of them would say Shakur Stevenson beats Devin Haney. You know what I'm saying? Because Shakur Stevenson, you know, developed quicker than Devin Haney. When Devin Haney was still a kid, Shakur Stevenson was already established. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the same situation as Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson. Frank Martin is not accomplished. He's never been champion. He's never been an Olympian. Devin Haney has never been an Olympian. He's undisputed champion, youngest undisputed champion ever. Which, you know, congratulations to Devin Haney for that. But still, outside of that accomplishment, which the only reason that I, you know, I'm not gonna say I'm adding an asterisk to it, but I don't put it in the same category as you went and collected all the belts. You went and you put your belt on the line against another champion. You took his belt, and then you put your belt on the line. You know what I mean? Like how Errol Spence did it on the way up to, you know, all the way up to fighting Terrence Crawford. Errol Spence went out and collected all the belts, beat all the champions, collected all the belts. Devin Haney didn't do that. So outside of him beating that one person that had all the belts, him and Shakur Stevenson, for the most part, are on the same level. You know what I'm saying? They're the same. They're at the same height in their career. And if Shakur Stevenson becomes champion at 135, a champion at 135, you know, one might be able to put Shakur Stevenson being a 3-division champion up against Devin Haney being undisputed or unified champion at 135. You know what I'm saying? So 3-division weight champion at Shakur Stevenson's age, it's a big accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? May not be on the same level as being undisputed, but I feel like this is my personal opinion. I feel like how Devin Haney got his belts by just beating Kambosos, that's it, puts, you know, if Shakur Stevenson becomes a champion, put him on the same level. So I'm saying they're closer than Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson. So they're not the same. They're not the same. Frank Martin is kind of tripping, asking for equal pay with Shakur Stevenson. He has not done enough in the sport to demand to be for a 50-50 slice, for him to fight Shakur Stevenson. You need a Shakur Stevenson. You need a Shakur Stevenson. Technically, Shakur Stevenson doesn't need Devin Haney. He just needs Devin Haney's hardware. You know what I'm saying? If Devin Haney vacates and goes to 140, Shakur Stevenson doesn't necessarily need to fight Devin Haney to define himself as a fighter, to prove himself as a fighter. He's already beat champions. He's already beat the guys that they put in front of Shakur Stevenson to say this is going to be this toughest test, and he may or may not get past them. He's already beat those guys. Frank Martin has never even fought those guys yet. He's not even fought those guys yet. So Shakur Stevenson just needs Devin Haney's hardware. He don't necessarily need to fight Devin Haney. Frank Martin, if he don't need Shakur Stevenson, he needs a Shakur Stevenson. He needs someone who is a name. He needs someone who is established. He needs someone who is a champion. He needs someone to validate him because he hasn't proven himself yet. That's the difference between the two. So Shakur Stevenson did not duck Devin Haney. By asking for more money, he did not duck Devin Haney. You know what I'm saying? Devin Haney's camp chose not to give Shakur Stevenson more money in order to make the fight. People can have their opinion about that. You know what I'm saying? But Shakur Stevenson asking for more money against Devin Haney is not the same thing as Frank Martin asking for more money against Devin Haney. Because Frank Martin is not on the same level as Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is on the same level as Devin Haney. They're on the same level. They came up together. They're on the same level. And outside of the accomplishment of holding all the belts at 135, because you beat the guy that had all the belts, outside of that accomplishment, one could actually argue that Shakur Stevenson is further along than Devin Haney. Like Bill Haney said it. Shakur Stevenson was the big homie. He's always been the big homie. The big homie, for those who don't understand what that term means, the big homie is the dude you look up to. He's not talking about he's the big homie for himself because he's older than Shakur Stevenson. He's talking about in reference to his son, Devin Haney. So according to Bill Haney, in relation to Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson is the big homie to Devin Haney. Shakur Stevenson was an Olympian, while Devin Haney was trying to make his name in the amateurs and looking up to Shakur Stevenson, who was already an Olympian. If I'm not mistaken, Shakur Stevenson went pro first. So even when they spar, Shakur Stevenson was further along in his career than Devin Haney was in that sparring footage when they sparred back in the day. So Shakur Stevenson is technically Devin Haney's big homie. So, him asking for a 50-50 split with the little homie, they could argue back and say, nah, because we got all the belts. You know what I mean? You're not coming to the table with enough hardware. And Shakur Stevenson could fire back and say, well, you know what I'm saying? I'm an Olympian. I'm a two-time weight champion. You never been two-time weight champion. I'm a two-time champion in two different weight classes. You know what I mean? So they got things to go back and forth about. Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson, they don't have nothing to go back and forth about. Shakur Stevenson, I'm a two-time champion going for my third weight class. I'm in my third weight class. I've already been champion in two weight classes. I'm in my third weight class. I've already beat champions in two different weight classes. And I'm an Olympian. What do you bring to the table, Frank Martin? Crickets. Because he doesn't bring anything to the table. He doesn't bring a belt. He doesn't bring, any sort of, high-level credibility. He's just a good fighter to the eye test. according to the eye test and what people see, he's a good fighter. But he hasn't even proven that he's an exceptional fighter yet because he hasn't fought anyone else exceptional. Shakur Stevenson has vanquished other exceptional fighters. So, is Shakur Stevenson a hypocrite? Hell no. And because we say Frank Martin ducked Shakur Stevenson, does that also mean Shakur Stevenson ducked Devin Haney? Hell no. And that's my explanation why. All right, so just wanted to get that out the way real quick. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Let's talk about it. All right, peace.